Good morning, hand. Today's going to be pocket nines. We are in early position. I'm going to raise first in. I've got a big stack, 286, and in this hand we get one caller. This caller's playing a tight passive game, 18% overall, 3% pre-flop raise, 1% 3-bet. I've got a note on him that he just called with kings instead of 3-betting. Called 3-bets in position with queens, called any 4-bets with aces and queens, called 3-bets out of position. 3-bet range, I have jacks plus, so sometimes he can raise, but it seems like now it's just strictly like aces, maybe occasionally kings. We could weight him. I guess we could add some weighting to it, but I've got my range. His range, I'm putting something like this. It's almost 10%. When we look at just his overall VPIP and the cutoff, it's 11. It seems lower than what is typical here. I think he's normally playing around 20%, 18%. Raise first in stat is 4%, so 2 out of 56. This could be a small sample size. So like, I know I've played with him a lot, and this is just over the last 12 weeks. Pre-flop calls 4%, 2 out of 50. 3-bet is 1, I believe, in this spot. Yeah, 1 out of 50, so 2%. So I kind of think maybe 10% or so to call. Not, I think he might limp with wider, but I think just call. I'm gonna say kings to sixes. I don't think really you've got like these lower pocket pairs. Let's include fives, but then you've got these broadways and a couple suited connectors, and I'm gonna say that's about it. Flop comes out 10-8-6, all hearts. Villain's definitely going to have decent hands here. This is, in terms of his calling range, when we think about what he has, he's going to hit, like, he basically hits all of his middle trips here. He's got every single one of them. He's got some over pairs. He's got some of these over cards. Doesn't really have a 10 though. So really, I think we're looking at over cards and maybe trips, along with some flushes or the flush draws that are out there. So if I bet, I kind of assume that Villain's going to be calling definitely with the flush, probably with the set, probably with the over pair. If he has a top pair, he probably calls it. I don't think nines. I don't think he would call. Well, maybe with a straight with a gut shot. No, I don't think he's doing that. Not with the flush on the board. I think you've got the nut and the second nut flush draw that he's probably calling. Maybe the third nut. I guess we could give it to him, but I think he's looking something like this. Our hand, I don't think it's worth betting here. Quite frankly, we don't have the 9 of hearts. I guess if we had the 9 of hearts, it'd be different, but we don't have the 9 of hearts. We're against a tight player who's going to be calling almost 50% of the time. Definitely turn honest. That was my note. Turn c-bet. Turn c-bet honest. Anyways, he c-bets a lot, and then he'll chill. He's in position, so fold flop c-bets 3 out of 7, versus out of position 13 out of 15. So I don't think we're getting a lot of folds here. So that being said, what kind of hands do we bet? I think we bet our flush. I think we bet. Definitely, I think we bet our flush. I think we bet our set. Maybe our overpair if they have a flush draw. And I think part of that overpair will be like the nut flush and the second nut flush draw. I don't think we're going down to a third nut. Not against this guy. And even the second nut's questionable. Even the second nut flush is questionable. And then we're going for something like maybe sevens. So maybe like 7 with the 7 of hearts or 9s with the 9 of hearts, kind of add in. And then some of these no-made hands. So maybe something like So if we have a jack, we block. Really, like blockers is what we're looking for. So maybe like an ace jack, maybe like ace queen, ace nine, maybe like all ace queens or something like that. Something like that, I think would be the bet, just to kind of get like a 2-to-1 bluff to value range. But since we don't have the heart, I think we're checking. So I like my check, and then villain bets here. He bets 3.6. Bets half pot. That's interesting. Normally, you don't see a player like this make a play. So he does it actually fairly commonly, 63%. So if he's going to do that with 63%, he may be doing it with all of these pairs. And we'll give him just all like flush draws. Let's do all of that. And he's got a lot. That's interesting. He does donk flop a lot at 28%. Would he do it with his entire range? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I think we'll keep that. So now it's back on us. We already kind of laid out what we were gonna, how we were gonna play. I think our overpair calls. I think our top pair calls. I think we can justify like calling with your jacks. Let's do this. Let's get rid of those 9s and 7s. We will take those out. I think our weak nut can now weak flush third nuts calling. I guess all of these are all like middle pair with like a straight draw. Guess we'll turn those off. So maybe just something like that. We've got some straight potential. We've got some overcards. Maybe that's just gonna be what we call. And I did call. Again, I don't know if this is right. I think it's unusual. I think we let him bet by checking. And since he does float a lot, I do think we're gonna have to defend a lot. King of Spades comes out. I think we check. I think we basically check our entire range here. I don't think there's any reason to bet. I think villain could bet. We have our sets. We've got 2-pair. We've got some of these, pocket pairs. Curious to see if he bets. If he bets this, then I think we're gonna have to fold, because as I said, it looks like he is like c-bet honest. So maybe he stabs a lot on the flop, like he's got donk flop 28%. Let's see the donk turn. Probably we don't have as much, but yeah, 0 out of 5. So on the flop, it's 9 out of 32, but then 0 out of 5 on the turn, 1 out of 3 on the river. He probably hit something there. So I think looks like he's tight passive, and then he bets a lot on the flop or calls a lot on the flop and then becomes honest. So if he checks here, which is what he did, we're going to eliminate flush. I think maybe we can have the set in here. I still think set's gonna probably bet still. We just check called. I think he's gonna bet, and he's gonna know. Then he'll probably check behind. Let's do this. Let's give it 50%. 50% chance that he bets. 50% chance that he checks. I think top pair bets. I don't think these bet. Now, top pair, we're gonna do the same. We're gonna give like 50%. Sometimes he bets, sometimes he checks. But I do think all of these hands, he's got it. I think the nut flush draw, he can have it. Straight draws, he can have it. All of those things. So that's his checking range. We basically have 100% of our range. So right now you can see that we're just slightly ahead with our nines. We beat a lot of those small, like we beat sevens. We beat, 8-7, 8-9, which I guess could have bet. King of clubs comes out, and that's probably one of the best ones that could come. He bet flop, and then he slowed down on the turn. Question is, if we bet, could he fold? And that kind of if he can, then that determines how wide, how much of these hands we're going to be bluffing here, and how many of them we'll use for our value range. I've got nothing wrong with just checking here. I kind of think he's going to check down, and especially since we don't really have any like junky hands that missed. Yeah, we've got all these weak pairs. So you get these middle pairs. We do have some value. I think if anything, we would bet these weak pair hands as a bluff, and then middle pair, top pair are like all checks. And you've got these weak pairs that you could bet with a full house too, with like the king 10. We don't have a huge number. This is 2.7%, so you don't need much. You're picking like one more hand, and that's it. So I think if we check, whoops, let's change that. If we check, we're looking at those. And then of these, what do we call? I think queens, jacks, and probably the middle pair. I think is what we call. So we do check, and then villain checks behind. So when villain checks behind, I don't think he has a full house. I think he bets that. I do think he could have any of those hands. And we go to showdown. At showdown, he shows ace jack with the jack of hearts. So does he have that? Yeah, he actually did. So I had that in his range, and that's one of those. We checked. He was betting with that third flush, third nut flush, which isn't what I would have expected. So, how do I rate the hand? I think we're right in not c betting. I think we're correct in not c betting on this board. I think the call could be questionable. I think against average opponent, we could probably fold with the nines. Yeah, we're folding the gut shot, but we're dodging like all of the hearts. It's going to be hard for us to continue. Playability, I think, is going to be a little bit harder with the nines. If we had the 9 of hearts, I think now it becomes a call. Same thing if we had like a 7 of hearts, sevens with the 7 of hearts, we can call that. But here, without the heart, I think standard play is probably just a check fold. Against a player like this, though, where he does seem like he donks a lot and he floats a lot on the flop. Once we check to him and he bets, I don't think we can automatically just fold our hands. I think we have to consider that he's taking a stab. He's betting after people who had the lead show passivity, show weakness, you could say. And if that's what they're going to do, then we're going to have to open up our range. So now I think calling with the sevens, calling with like 8-7 and 9-8, 10-9, I think those are all going to be suitable hands to call and then see how it develops. If, on this king, we check. I think we check. If he bets, I think then we can kind of give up our hand at that point, because now he's bet twice. He's saying, hey, I've got something decent. But when he checks now, on the turn, it kind of gives us an idea that maybe we might be good, or maybe we have some draws, some outs here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get some notes on him. I think it's important to show, what he's doing this. So he called EP, EP 3 big blind RFI in cutoff with ace of diamonds, jack of hearts. So he is in position, and then he bets 50% check on 10, 8, 6 hearts, king of clubs, or king of spades, king of clubs. All right. Bet 50% check. All right, so we got it. So hopefully you enjoyed this hand. I don't think I played it terribly. I think this is probably okay. So hopefully you enjoy this. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.